Now, let's talk about the reform a little bit. The Israeli land reform, actually, we're talking about two reforms. And a little bluntly, I would say that two conflicting reforms. One that is dealing with urban lands, with the apartments and businesses in Israeli cities and townships. This is called urban land, and the reform there is very brutally privatizing everything, fast and for no compensation or very little compensation, meaning if you own a house or if you own a business in Tel Aviv or in Haifa or in any other part of Israel which is considered urban, you should only pay a very little sum of money or none at all, and it will all be registered on your name and transferred to your ownership. This is the main part of the reform that was passed in 2009. And the reason for that is that they want to revive the economy and to save the citizens the need to deal with the Israel Land Authority and to send them requests and wait for their reply and pay them taxes. They want to eliminate the friction between the citizens of Israel and the land authority. And the way they do that is they simply finish off the land authority regarding urban lands. Now, if we talk about agricultural lands, which is containing not only the land that we use for agriculture, but also the settlements themselves, meaning the kibbutz houses, the kibbutz businesses, etc. Here, I would say, actually, not only there's no reform, I would say there's a bit of nationalization, meaning going back, minimizing rights. For example, in the past, when kibbutzim wanted to grow, they could grow as if they had more members, they could build more houses. Now, they're not allowed to pass a certain number of houses, meaning there's like a final size for every kibbutz, around 400 to 500 apartments. That is all a kibbutz is allowed to have. Many kibbutzim, that's more than enough, but there are many kibbutzim that are bigger and they cannot grow anymore. In the past, kibbutzim were allowed to create factories and businesses. As long as they paid the necessary amounts of money, they could have a factory that is as big as need to be. Now, the size is limited. You cannot have industrial land owned by a kibbutz more than a certain size, from about 60 dunams in the center of Israel up to 120 dunams in more rural areas. So these are a few examples of how the land of the kibbutz is not only reformed in the way or privatized the way it is in the cities, but the other way around. The rights are being minimized. Now, the main reason for that is a special decision of the High Court of Justice in Israel from the year 2002. To put it in simple words, there was a petition to the court by certain groups in Israel that said that the kibbutzim and moshavim in Israel are making too much money from the use of the land. And the court of Israel approved the appeal, stating that when controlling the land, the state should put into consideration also consideration of distributive justice. Now, what the authorities did is that they implied those principles of distributive justice only on agricultural land, meaning all the reform in the city, distributive justice is not taken into account. But the rationale is eliminating friction, whilst in the agricultural lands, because of their scale, and because they claim the farmers didn't pay a lot of money when they leased the land, the main principle is distributive justice, and friction is not an issue. So the problem today is that we have a lot of friction in the kibbutz. Now, this is a very bad for a kibbutz, a very bad time for kibbutzim to have friction. And why is that? Because kibbutzim are also going through a process of reform. Kibbutzim are also being privatized. A few things that are happening in the kibbutzim now that we should consider as privatization. For example, kibbutzim factories are creating partnerships with outside investors. Many kibbutzim have now investors that bought parts of their factory. Some kibbutzim went to the stock exchange to raise money through the stock exchange. Some kibbutzim are rendering services, many kibbutzim are rendering services to non-kibbutzniks. For example, the kibbutzim have a wonderful educational system, from baby houses to high school. Because the kibbutzim went through a crisis, there aren't many students in the kibbutz. There aren't enough students in the kibbutz to support this educational system. So kibbutzim are getting children from outside the kibbutz into their educational systems. The same things happens with other services that the kibbutzim keep. For example, many kibbutzim, or any kibbutz, would have a swimming pool. Again, the population of the kibbutz is not very big, is not very strong. So in order to support, to maintain the swimming pool, they would offer outside people to come in, to pay something, and enter and use the swimming pool. In kibbutzim that went to the process of privatizing the income of the members, many members wanted to start their own businesses. Someone would like to open a law firm. The other one would like to have a small metal shop. The other one would have to have a cosmetics shop. So all these little businesses are taking place inside the kibbutz, and it's new. It's something that wasn't there before. Some kibbutzim have empty apartments because some of the members left. Some of the apartments are empty. What kibbutzim are doing, for example, we're now sitting in a college that is based in rural area. And many of the students that study here, that come from other parts of Israel, would go and rent small apartments from some of the kibbutzim that are around here. Many kibbutzim have empty apartments, and one of the things they do is they rent those apartments for outside people. And the last thing I would mention is called harchavot. Harchava in Hebrew is like expanding the kibbutz. What happened was that many kibbutzim had declining population. They wanted to get new population into the kibbutz, but many people who could come to the kibbutz and say, we would like to come and live here, but we don't want to be members of the cooperative. We don't want to be members of the kibbutz. So some kibbutzim, what they did is they got to an agreement with the Israel Land Authority that the Israel Land Authority would market plots of land for people who would come and live in the kibbutz, would buy or build a home in the kibbutz, but will not be members of the kibbutz. In this way, in a way, the kibbutzim have marketed plots of land through the land authority to outside population. So all these processes and many more are processes that are involved, are part of the privatization of the kibbutz, but also part of the privatization of the land in Israel.